Welcome back to a Life Under Construction podcast. I'm your host, Rhoda Daniel, and I'm extremely honored to welcome you to yet another episode of Season 2. I was just looking back at all the episodes that we have done so far. This is episode 10, if you haven't been following along. And we have been, as you know, this season exploring the theme of man's search for meaning. And as I was looking over the episodes, I realized that we've covered quite a lot. We have covered so many aspects of finding purpose, finding meaning. How do we do that? We started with talking about how to create space for purpose to find its way into our life by solitude, by purity. We talked about how to persevere in spite of obstacles because our lives are full of obstacles. We talked about how to find purpose and meaning even in the midst of suffering, in the midst of pain, in the midst of a human experience. We talked about how to live our lives in such a way that it would be remembered beyond our death. We talked about all those lies that keep coming at us, that hinder us from becoming the person that we were created to be. And we also talked about the fact that there is a call on each of our lives to live a life of purpose, to live a life of meaning, and we need to ensure that we are present enough to hear that call, to notice that call, to see opportunities calling us to the next level of our lives sooner rather than later. These are all very heavy topics that are not very commonly talked about, and sometimes they are so heavy that we don't want to think about them because life is lifing and we don't have time or we don't have the energy. But I have truly understood through my own experience, through talking to people who are living their best lives, so to speak, that it is so important. That just because it is heavy doesn't mean that we get to avoid it and we get to dismiss it. We need to take that effort to think about it and meditate on it and reflect on it and find our way through the mess of our own lives so that when we look back at our lives, we're not regretting the way that we've lived it. So that is the whole point of this season, and I thought we would take today's episode to kind of just take a step back. It's not the halfway point, it's episode 10 out of 12, but it is a good time to just take a step back and look at our lives, look at what we have been hearing through this entire season, and see how we have grown, or if we have grown or not. David Hawkins is a psychiatrist, or was a psychiatrist, who created a map of human consciousness. This is a map, essentially like a scale, showing the different stages of human evolution, the evolution of human consciousness. What he believed was that our consciousness, how we see things, how we perceive things, whether it is through our experiences or our observations in life, how we interpret the world, is based on our level of consciousness. And he has put numbers to each level, showing us a very clear picture of where we probably stand and where we want to go. So if you see the scale of consciousness or this map of consciousness, and I'll put it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, he has created a scale between 1 and 1,000, and he's given points to certain levels. On the lower end of the scale of consciousness are things like shame or guilt or grief or anger. That's below 200 points. And according to David Hawkins, that 1 to 200 range is the survival paradigm. According to him, if we are operating from those levels, we are just surviving. Now let me give you an example. If we are operating out of anger, maybe we've gone through experiences in life that have put us on the edge of anger all the time, and we view the world with that anger. And so anytime something goes wrong, we react with anger. Somebody says something in a certain tone. Somebody just brushes past us while walking. Somebody sends an email which we interpret again with anger. So our level of consciousness is at that level of anger. And according to him, anger is at 150 out of 1,000. Now we can evaluate where we stand. Are we someone who is sitting with a lot of anger? Are we someone who's sitting with a lot of grief? I'm not saying that grief is not a part of life, but are we sitting there? Are we not getting over a death of a person in our family? Are we just grieving all the time? If we are at that level of consciousness of grief. Grief is at 75 on the scale of consciousness. So that means when we are sitting with that grief all the time, we look at life with grief. We don't have hope. We don't have joy. We don't have a sense of there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We are constantly just looking at life with the lens of everything bad happens to me. Life is unfair. So those emotions of grief, of desire, craving, of apathy, of shame are still in the survival level. Now the next level, between the 200 and the 400. In this range, there are things like courage, reason, logic, acceptance. So if we are in this range, if we are operating from logic or reasoning, if we are operating with courage, if we have accepted life and we're not constantly fighting it, we are in, according to David Hawkins, the reason and integrity paradigm. It is here in this range where life opens up a little bit. We are not wallowing in emotions that drown us, but we are slowly looking at life with a little broader perspective, and our consciousness is improving. And then the next range is from 400 up to 1,000. And all those qualities or emotions that we actually long for in our lives, like love or peace or joy, are in this higher range of consciousness. This is what he calls the spiritual paradigm. So the goal is, as human beings, move from survival to reason, to the spiritual paradigm, and essentially reach the 1,000 mark, which is enlightenment. He even talks in his later books about a level beyond enlightenment, which is transcendence. And I believe the goal of every human being is we want to reach that enlightenment. We want to reach that transcendence. We want to live above all these base emotions that we sit with, that we know are not good for us. Now, I want you to take some time and look at this scale of consciousness, to look at the different levels and assess for yourself where you stand most of the time. Now, there might be certain days where you come down lower, but where do you stand on most days? The goal is to move forward. The goal is not to say, okay, this is where I am and this is where I'm going to be, which unfortunately many of us do because it's too hard to move forward. But I would really encourage you to not only see where you are, but see where you want to go and then bridge the gap. And that is the whole point of human existence. We were not meant to be the same people that we were born into this world as. As babies, when we are born into this world, nobody expects the baby to remain a baby 10 years down the line. They expect growth. They expect development. They expect the child to start crawling, to start walking, to start running, to start doing things in a more mature way as the years pass by. The same thing applies to our consciousness. There has to be a maturity in our level of consciousness. Otherwise, we're still babies mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I don't think anyone would want to remain a baby. Yes, sometimes we can say, like, I wish I was a child, no responsibilities. Being an adult is hard, but we know the benefits of being an adult, being independent, being mature. We know that we have freedom to do the things that we want to do. And I believe when we mature in our levels of consciousness, in how we are in this world, how we perceive this world, there is a greater freedom that we get through that. I was just reading my journal, and one of the reasons why I like writing journals, or I make scrapbooks sometimes, or I used to, is because I like capturing that moment in time so that I can look back and hopefully see how far I've come. And I was looking at one of my journals from exactly 10 years back. And I was shocked, to say the least, because this was me who had written this. And I read what was written, and I was so saddened and shocked by 22-year-old Rhoda and what she was feeling and what she was experiencing, because she was going through it. Like, she was, I don't know, like, I feel so bad for her because she was going through so much chaos, so many emotions. And like, I read a diary entry from one day, and literally it was like this, like this, like this, the emotions that she went through. And I'm talking about her in the third person because I don't connect with her anymore. Like, I do not, like, if I read it, I'm like, that's not me. That is so not me. Because I have grown, because I have changed, because I don't know, I've just become more at peace with my life. And that has been because I have taken a lot of effort to kind of push through and remove certain things from my life, remove emotions that I knew were harmful for me, thought patterns that I know were holding me down. And when I look at that diary or those diary entries, I was in chaos. I was literally in chaos. I'm not saying my circumstances were as bad. Like, my life on the outside looked fine. Like, if people knew me at 22, they wouldn't think anything was wrong. I was in a mess internally. And that showed up in what I was writing. And I feel so saddened by that Rhoda, or what she had to go through, or what she was going through internally. But I'm also very, very thankful for the growth that has happened in my life, and the effort that I had to take, and the ability and strength that God gave me to get out of that, to move above. So I think that is the whole point of existence. Like, if you find yourself in that chaos right now, if you find yourself at the lower levels of consciousness, the goal is not to stay there. That's never the goal. The goal is always to move forward. And the sooner we move forward, as I said earlier, the more freedom we'll experience in our life. Because right now, I can experience that freedom. I can sit in the middle of a most horrible situation, and I can laugh and I can smile. 10 years back, I wouldn't have. 10 years back, even the smallest thing triggered me. The smallest thing set me off. Now, even a big, massive thing that should impact me doesn't impact me, because I'm operating on that higher level of frequency. And I'm viewing life through the eyes of love. I'm viewing life through the eyes of joy, which is again not dependent on circumstance. I'm viewing life through the eyes of peace. I'm viewing life through the eyes of, does this add meaning to my life or not? Does this give me contentment to my life or not? Does this give me a sense of purpose to my life or not? And that higher ground is where I want each and every one of you to be. I'm someone who loves driving, and I always use this analogy. Would you rather drive on a flyover, or would you rather drive underneath a flyover? Underneath the flyover, there's chaos and there's traffic and there's pedestrians, there is roads cutting in, and so it's always chaotic. It's always crowded. But when you get on that flyover, there's no distraction. There's empty space for you to move at a speed much more than if you were going down below. When you have the choice to choose between going underneath and going above, of course you will choose going above. That, I believe, is how life is. We all have a choice. We have a choice to go underneath the flyover and get hit by all these things. And especially in this city where I live in, Coimbatore, I have always found that if I drive slowly, I get hit. Like, somebody's going to hit me. So the faster I move, the safer I am. And I don't know if it logically makes sense, but it has made sense to me. Even when I stop my car, I get hit. So I'm like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to drive as fast as I can. And that speed is what we need in our life, so that the circumstances of life don't hit us as hard. because we are moving, we have momentum, we are moving towards our purpose, we are moving towards doing the thing that we were created to do. And when we do that, other things that are not necessarily important fall away. So I just want to tell you today that you have a choice. You have a choice to choose if you want to stay below the flyover or choose that higher ground. And I really hope and I really pray that you choose that higher ground today. Life was never meant for us to live in the chaos of those base emotions and base experiences. That was not how life was meant to be. But somehow, everybody says that this is life. When you talk to people and you tell them that I'm not really satisfied with life, my life has become a little bit mundane, I feel stuck, I feel helpless and restless, I feel something's missing, everyone will tell you that that's normal, that's human experience. But that's not every human's experience. You talk to the people who are living life, doing something worthwhile, doing something that gives them that push to wake up every morning. If you talk to those people, they will tell you you're not meant to feel stuck. You're not made to feel as if you are surviving every single day. You were made for more. Surviving is not the aim in life. Thriving is. And if you are not thriving right now, it's time to start. It's time to take a step back, look at your life, open up aspects of your life and see where it is that you are still stuck in survival mode. What are the things that are holding you back, and start moving forward. I truly believe that each and every one of you listening is made for more. 10 years ago, that Rhoda was barely keeping her head above the water. She was sinking. She was honestly sinking. And I am so thankful today that I'm not only above the water, I am able to literally surf on the water, that I'm gliding over it. Yes, waves are still coming at me. Yes, life still happens. Days are hard, but I'm above the water. And I'm able to remain above the water because of choices that I have made. And I just pray that you make those choices today. It starts with a choice. It starts with a decision. And then, as Aristotle has said, we are what we repeatedly do. It's not going to be an immediate transformation. It took me 10 years. I could see the change starting in my late 20s, but there were days when I literally sat with my life and said, I do not want to feel this way. I do not want to live this way. This is not how life should be. And I'm not saying again it's to do with circumstances, because I also tell people that just a couple of years back, I was sitting in a very, very beautiful place. I turned 30 and I was sitting in one of the most beautiful places probably in the world that anyone would want to sit in. And even then, I was examining my life and I was like, there's something wrong. There's something missing. Was I in a good place in life? Yes. And I was dissatisfied with my life. And I was surprised at why I was dissatisfied, because you wouldn't expect. And I love the water. I love the ocean. I love the beach. I'm sitting on this beach and I'm like, I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. And that's when I knew that it was because I didn't have something that was meaningful that I was working towards. There was not this something that I was doing in this world or contributing to this world. I was just living life. I was enjoying life, but there was something missing. And that is when I knew that I was made for more. I was made for more. And so it's nothing to do with circumstances. It's nothing to do with whether you're at rock bottom or you're at the highest mountaintop. It is to do with the fact that, is your soul satisfied? Are you truly living the life that you were created to live? Because when you live that life, when you do something meaningful, and it may be something small in whatever way you are drawn to, you will know that this was why you were born. Once you breathe the air in the mountains, you won't want to go back to the pollution in the plains. Once you drive on a flyover, you don't wish to drive beneath the flyover in the chaos, once you experience that higher ground, you won't want to go back to your original life. We only have this one life, and why shouldn't it be the adventure of a lifetime? Why shouldn't it be something that we can excitedly talk about? Why should it be mundane? Why should it be routine? Why? So that's what I want to leave with you today. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you so much for listening to all the other episodes. If you have been sending me messages, sharing what has impacted you, what you have learned, I'm so thankful for those messages, because I truly love hearing from you. I truly love hearing your thoughts and how you are interpreting what I'm sharing. I love the questions that you ask, and so I'm so thankful for the time that you spend listening to these episodes. And stay tuned for even next week, because next week I have a very, very special guest who will be joining me. So please subscribe if you haven't already, so that you get a notification when that episode goes live as well. There are just 2 episodes left in the season, and I'm hoping to end on a good note. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you again next week with another topic that will help you live a life of purpose and help you live the life that you are always meant to live.